And today I want to talk about contribution. I'm David. Mano's part of the community engineering team at Magento, and I just gathered a few people together here to talk about contribution from as many different mindsets as I could imagine. So we have some agencies, some freelance, and also Alessandro is here from part of the MSI project. So what I wanted to get was as much information, as much feedback, and thoughts from all around the Magento community. So how about we start over this side with John? How about you introduce yourself and what's your experience with contribution?
So I'm John Knowles. I'm Chief Technical Officer at JH. We're an SI in the UK. My experience with contribution was, most recently was with you in the UK with the Distributed Contribution Day.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to get about 15 of us. And then was it about 100 worldwide?
100, yeah, exactly.
Worldwide, which was really impressive. And one of the highlights for that for me was a developer with 3 months of experience out of university was putting his first contribution in to the core.
That's cool. Cool. And then next to John, we have Max.
Yeah, hi, I'm Max Chadwick. I work at Something Digital. We're an agency based out of New York City. And my experience, I think my first contribution to Magento 2 was probably in 2015, maybe. It was before Magento 2 was actually GA. I made a JavaScript fix for something, and up to the current time, I've probably done maybe like between 5 to 10 pull requests, I would say.
Cool.
To Magento 2.
Nice. Okay. And then we have the wonderful Laura.
Hello, my name is Laura Falco, and I'm a freelancer. And I have very little experience with contribution. I did a DevDocs pull request once.
Okay. And the reason I got Laura involved especially is because it's all well and good to say we're going to contribute from an agency point of view, but from a freelance point of view, like you were saying earlier, you're your own boss and you're a pretty tough boss. So I wanted to kind of get like an idea of a freelancer's point of view about it. So we'll get onto that in a bit as well. And finally, we have.
Hi, I'm Alessandro from Italy. I work in Bitbull as developer mainly, and yeah, my contribution is related to the multi-source inventory project. That's a project that started almost 1 year ago. And yeah, I'm one of the oldest, I like to say the oldest contributors, not for my age basically.
Cool. So I guess the first place I'd like to start at the moment is for you, what drives you if you've done some contribution or you would love to do some contribution? What's the driving factor behind contribution with Magento?
For me, it's the overall improvement of the platform. Just everyone feeding into the thing they use day in, day out. If we fix something, we want to make sure that that fix is then rolled out for everyone else as well. Like one person's pain shouldn't be given to everyone else.
Okay. And from that kind of mindset of like you want to improve things, is there kind of like anything you do specifically from a company point of view or to encourage that sort of mindset?
The team's very driven. They all want to contribute. They always want to do things better than they already do. They're the ones wanting to contribute. I'm not having to push them to. They're a little demoralised to start off with with Magento 2.0, but since the community engineering teams got involved, it's been incredible. The response times are quicker. We're actually getting the code we're writing into the core, which is absolutely brilliant.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would say the same thing. It's improving the platform. It's also, if one of our clients has a bug that they're encountering, our other clients are going to have the same bug too. And so, with Magento 1, we would build a module that, then we would have to maintain that module. And if somebody, submitted a pull request or found a bug in our module, we would then have to be, fixing that. It's been more beneficial to actually port the changes into core, and then they are maintained by Magento. That's been a great improvement for us.
Cool. On the an interesting one on that side point, do you guys have a kind of, or in your mind, like a balance between what you would actually contribute compared to what you would still want? Because having a something digital module is great marketing. Having something digital contributing is also great marketing for you guys. So do you have like are you torn between making a module and providing a contribution?
That's a good question. I don't know that we have like we don't have a document that says here are all the guidelines for if it checks these boxes, then it goes into the core, and if it checks these boxes, it's better off as its own module. Personally, my stance is we should put everything into core. The only time it makes sense to do it as a module is if it's something custom for a specific client and meeting a specific need, and not something that everybody would need. Then it wouldn't make sense. But otherwise, I would rather put everything into the core.
That's awesome. Now, Laura, I know we've had discussions about this before in terms of what your mindset is. Do you feel you have a different mindset for contribution because you're in the freelance world, or?
I think I do. I don't really, since I work for myself, I don't really have anyone setting aside time for me in order to do this. It's a challenge for me, not just in the context of a contribution, but also for keeping myself up to date in technology in general. When you work in an agency, or if you have other team members, you have other people around that you learn from, and there could be a concerted effort from a company perspective to keep developers up to date. But when it's just you and you're in your day-to-day billable hour mode, it's hard to step aside and be like, you know what, I should take an hour or two and do this. But if you don't, you can find yourself behind pretty quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, just going back to the talk that just happened with Alessandro, one of my key takeaways from that was that contribution is not just about the features, the bug fixes, the whatever, but also, like Laura was saying, like the training side of it. So Alessandro, I know you have quite strong feelings on the training part as well.
Yeah. Actually, when they ask me why you do it, my answer is it's like asking me why I love my mom. It comes from inside of me, but I understand that this answer doesn't help me to push people to contribute. So the real answer I give is because it's win-win situation. Because the more you give, the more you receive. Contributing is a way of really learning from the roots, from people that works in Magento, from people that was in the community, and it's a great learning opportunity.
Yeah.
I can testify that something isn't clear until you have to explain it to someone else, and contributing is very similar, because when you write code that someone else has to read and approve, you try to work differently.
Okay.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Now, I would love some nice, open and honest. We're in a safe space here. It feels a bit weird being in this box, but it's a safe space. So what I want to do, part of my job is to make contribution as easy as possible for people. And I know that we are better than we used to be, but there's still room for improvement. So I'm just wondering if anyone has kind of any ideas as to how we can make the process smoother, how we can make it easy, especially for first-time people, like who want to contribute, to get in. It's probably easier for someone that's been doing it a long time to contribute. But if you're out there and you want to do it, but you have no idea why, do you have any recommendations that we could do to improve, or that person could get into?
I've spoken to you and Max in the past about acknowledging which modules are under active refactor and rewrites and which modules are sort of pretty still. So if you're going to put a large bug fix in or refactor a large amount of code, you don't want to do that to something that the core team is already working on. Yeah. So we spoke about maybe having green, red, amber on something along that lines on each module, so don't touch this, or don't put a lot of time into this because we're rewriting this, or this one is sort of we're doing some development on, so ask us first before you invest your time, because one of the worst things for contribution is if someone puts a large amount of time into something and then it gets rejected. It's unlikely to pull that person back from that point. It's working with them to turn it into something that can be accepted at some point.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's part of it for contribution is, as Magento, we shouldn't accept everything, and we
Yeah.
can't accept everything. But what we want to do is we want to try and make it as open as possible, so that if you're not sure, like saying if you're not sure whether this should be done or how it should be done, that we have the team is accessible so that you can ask. Now, I think that is a fabulous idea in terms of what is essentially what is fair game, what is ready, and you can work on it. I know we have a list of responsibilities for module bases, and that's on the GitHub wiki. But that's something that we should probably look to adding in as well. Is like not just who to contact, but at what stage each of the modules are at as well. Yeah. Is there anything like? All right, let's go for Laura. I'm going to pick on you because I know your history on it as well, and I know that what frustrates you in terms of contribution? What could we do that smooths it out a little bit?
Running the tests.
Running the tests. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Yeah, I think the CI pipeline is a little intimidating.
Okay.
And that's probably a hard problem to solve because Magento is very complex. It's not, a set of tests that you run to contribute to some JavaScript plugin or something like that. It's a huge amount of code. So it's definitely, probably maybe more documentation or more of a process around, if you're going to contribute, Magento is made up of modules and components, right? So if you want to, run the tests for how do you just, I'm changing the catalog model, I just want to run the catalog tests or whatever, and the kind of some guidance on how to handle that. I think that's intimidating to a lot of people.
I also would think maybe a VM.
A VM?
A VM. Just have that readily available to download, just to pop it in, because I know it's like I have multiple clients, I have multiple VMs, and it's no secret that setting up Magento can be a pain point. So running the test made my laptop run out of memory. I was just unable to run them at all. It's having something that you can work on it in your own environment, but then something that you could just pop it into to run the test and make sure that it's going from there would be like sort of a step between the work you're doing and then submitting the pull request.
Yeah, I think that one in particular is a tricky one because I think everyone has their own everyone likes their own setup.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be though. The way I see it working would be I would have my own setup. I'm very particular about directory structure and where things live. But then once I'm done doing the work, then there would be a VM that I would put it onto, and then that would just run all the tests and all that, or something. I don't know. Maybe it'd be an online pipeline.
Yeah. Okay. I see. So, in terms of maybe not from the CI that side of stuff, we do have testing environments that you can spin up based on your pull request. But that's more like from a user testing point of view. So you get an admin access, you get that sort of stuff. But yeah, something, and especially at active times, if there is a contribution day going on, we do have the Travis setup, which runs it all. And also, there's only so much concurrency you can have at that point. So if there are 6 or 7 pull requests coming in at the same time, then there becomes a queue,
Yeah.
So something that's something we can look into.
I'm curious if you guys have looked into GitLab at all, or any of the way that they do things. I had heard a podcast at one point with, I forget his position, he might have been the founder of GitLab or something, but they, from what I remember, they have a way that basically you don't need to download the code and set it up on your machine. You can get the code base running via their UI basically on GitLab.
Okay, cool.
So something like that could be interesting too. It's I want to fix this one bug and I know how to fix it, but now I have to download Magento and set it up, and this, it would have been a 15-minute fix, but now it's going to take me half a day to get everything set up and package this all up.
That'd be good. Yeah. I don't know personally if we've done anything into the GitLab stuff. I know lots of other people, lots of agencies have done it, especially with Magento environments. So that'd be an interesting. I will raise.
Yeah, and I'm not saying specifically GitLab, like that tool is the tool that
No.
I'm not saying that's the tool that I'm telling you about. It's more just like that mindset. I don't
Yeah.
know what all the options are.
Okay, cool. So there's an interesting. So at the moment we have a lot of projects going on as well. So we have issues and we also have projects. And I'm just wondering, from you, from each like personal point of view, would you be more interested in doing like essentially long-term contribution in terms of like jumping into a project and being like, I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to commit to it for X amount of time, or would it be more interesting for you to be like, I have it's a Friday afternoon, I have a couple of hours, how can I improve or get involved in that time frame? So maybe I know Alessandro is a big fan of the project side, so maybe we can start with this one.
I think I have a specific case because I'm working for a project that started on May, and I'm working on it since July, and I feel a bit of responsibility given by the fact that I'm one of the few that are there since the beginning. So even if I didn't do everything on the project, it's impossible, obviously. I have the big picture.
Sure.
So from my point of view, it's important that some projects have someone committed in a long time period.
Sure.
That has the big picture, that maybe can facilitate onboarding of new people that want to do any contribution that can be as small as changing a doc block, as implementing new functionality. It's not the point. The point is every contribution counts.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what I feel. There is the need of probably both kind of people. The ones that are committed over the long time, and the ones that I have a couple of time I can spend on an issue. Maybe I can solve this issue. In the case of MSI, you have to know. You have to know the project, because if you want to solve an issue on Magento code base, chances are you know Magento, you use it every day, so you probably are able, if the issue you select, you are able to fix it or to work on it. You don't need any onboarding. But on MSI you need an onboarding, because we have a lot of new entities, new things to know, how things works, new design patterns applied, so you have to do things in a certain way.
Sure.
So that's my point of view.
Okay, but going off the back of that, like we're busy people. People are busy in general, you know. So it's, and I think one of the things we were talking about with John before was like the fact that someone who's pretty much straight out of university at the time, right? So we've got a balance between like making sure that we have enough that you can jump on with either very little Magento knowledge, or also in terms of having the issues ready and kind of triage so that people can find them easily. What would you be looking for if you hit, maybe not specifically Magento, but like you hit a GitHub, like what would you be looking for in specifics to say, how can I find something that I can jump on? Like, would you be looking for area specific stuff, or would you be looking for things to label with regards to rough ideas on terms of how long they would take, or what would you be looking for when you're going for?
I think you probably got to have a few channels, a few ways of going down those different routes, because some people are interested in different areas of the system, but a lot of contribution also comes off the back of, I've experienced this bug, I've had to go and fix it. Is there an issue for this? Is there an issue already open that I can then contribute to? It's mainly on contribution days where, in my experience anyway, where people actually go and find issues to start digging into, and that's where the triaging that you did before was perfect. We could just go in and as a team work on whether it was the PHP 7.2 project, MSI, or just clearing some bugs down on the 2.3 branch.
Okay.
I would say definitely areas, because any developer has certain parts that they're more comfortable with than others.
Yeah.
I personally probably wouldn't want to tackle a checkout bug at this time, but then there are other areas where I feel a lot more comfortable. So it'd be great to have it broken out almost like module level or functional level, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Like this is catalog, this is checkout, this is admin, that sort of thing.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Well, I think, yeah, probably uh, we're talking of the fact that time spent on contribution is time off work time.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that it should be this, because, well, time spent on contribution after all is time that you spend to improve yourself, to improve your skills, and I bet that during work you need to improve your skills, do some learnings, and so you can see if you are able to plan. Obviously, you can't work 4 hours a day each day on contribution. Understand this, but if you are able to plan some time every day, you probably will get back that time in terms of training, in terms of less bugs on the platform that you use every day. I think it pays back. So this is what actually I do. I don't. I'm a family man, so I don't have so much spare time.
Yeah.
What I do is trying to plan with my colleagues time to spend on the projects during work time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, probably I am privileged because I am my boss, so I can decide, but it's not the point. The point is that you probably only have to plan well and be focused. If you do things focused, you are very productive. You don't need to work 8 hours. Maybe 1 hour really motivated can produce more work and more results than 8 hours unmotivated work.
I definitely agree that contribution can happen during work, and I know, Gloria, you had said that you have trouble, doing contribution because you're freelancing and with clients. If there's a bug that your client is experiencing, like, it's going to need to get fixed one way or another, right?
Sure.
Maybe you build a patch or something else to fix it, and you implement it on their site, and maybe it's slightly less effort and more quickly, but there's a cost to that as well. It's kind of like you're incurring some technical debt at that point. So now all of a sudden you've chosen your own path for how you're going to fix this issue, and if one day Magento decides, this is really a priority for us, and we want to fix this, and they fix it in a different way, now you have to reconcile that and fix those two things. So.
Sure.
Excuse me. So we've had talks like that with our clients before as well. Like, we're going to have to go through a little bit more of a process to get this fix, into the core, but it's really going to benefit you in the long run, and they've been receptive of that and understood that. So I think that, if you approach it that way, it can also become part of your work, that part of what you're doing is contributing back to core.
Okay. So, like, one thing I'm interested in is, like, for me at least personally, how do I, or how do we as Magento kind of reward appropriately? Like, we want to encourage, and not just from an individual point of view, we want to encourage people to contribute. So as part of that, like you're saying, you're giving up your free time, you're giving up your expertise as well. So, like, are we doing a good job with regards to recognizing contribution? And I'm not just talking about code contribution here. We could be talking about docs. We could be talking about whatever. Like, and especially the difference, maybe Max and John here as well, or Alessandro, especially the difference between individual contribution and company contribution. Is there any area with regards to that maybe we like? What are your thoughts on that kind of from an agency point of view, maybe?
I think from an agency point of view, as an SI, especially, because already you have the tables and everything that sort of show the contribution of each agency, and that's sort of factored in overall with agency performance. And I think for the most part, that's enough. On the individual side, acknowledging is really all you need to do. A lot of it's quite selfless. It's like if people are going in there and fixing bugs, if you look at any open source project, people are doing it because they love the platform, they love to contribute, they want to be involved. All the best software in the world is off love, really. Just for love of the craft and programming and sort of building something out. So I think as long as you're being acknowledged for your contribution, whether you're an agency or an individual, that's all that really matters.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. I think that you guys are already doing a good job of that. There's a lot of carrots that are in front of agencies. Like you said, there's a leaderboard. You can tell prospects or clients, hey, check it out. We're really active, and look at us here on Magento.com. We also get the activity points, which is, you've kind of gamified it a little bit, and I think that's good. It draws people in to contribute, and then from an individual standpoint, putting people in the release notes, they get their name on there. I think all that's great. And I think you're already doing pretty well there.
How does it, Laura? How does that kind of change with regards to like a freelance point of view? Is there any kind of is it harder for you looking at, say, how we interact with agencies and partner program and stuff? Is that hard for you as a freelancer, or?
I don't think so in particular. I mean, there is definitely, as a sole proprietor, I don't have a lot of the weight of an agency. At the same time, I think that having contribution under your belt as a freelancer is going to differentiate you. I mean, it's kind of funny. I walk around with freelance on my badge, and I feel like I'm almost as popular as the merchants.
Okay, yeah.
And but it's hard to find a Magento developer. But then once you're looking for gigs, you want to be able to differentiate yourself. So there's ways to do that. There's certification. There's contribution. There's previous experience. So it definitely is going to be a career booster for sure. So I think that's a pretty good carrot.
Cool.
I think
and a mage elephant would be nice.
An elephant, okay.
I think to second that as well, when we were looking to hire, we recently hired Daniel Sleuth, and it was his open source contributions and his work with the Facebook hack, making Magento 1 work. With that really contributed to us wanting to hire him. It was all the other work that he was doing outside of his day job and what he was contributing that made him really attractive. So if you are a developer and you are sort of doing above and beyond what everyone else is, rather than just turning up and doing 9 to 5, that's always going to be recognised. It's not about going home and doing more client work and doing more of the job that you do in the day. It's about going home and doing something that inspires you and improves you as an individual.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
Well, my idea is that being rewarded is not the purpose. It's an outcome. It's the outcome that says, okay, you're doing things well, keep pushing. The real reward, as I mentioned, is the fact that you improve yourself, your knowledge, you improve the platform that you use. That's the real reward. I really appreciate every reward I received from Magento, and believe me, I received a lot of them. And every time they give me something, just like a cup or a sticker or nominate me something, my heart explodes because I'm very happy, because for me that means you're doing well. Keep pushing because you're doing well. But this is not what motivates me. What motivates me is the real outcome. And another thing that motivates me and would motivate me more and more is being able to see people inspired by our contribution and being pushed to do the same. I've met a couple of guys here at Imagine telling me, thank you for your job, you inspire me, I will do the same, I would like to do the same. And that's the greatest reward that you can have to do these things.
I didn't pay him to say any of this, just to clarify. No, that's cool. From a personal experience, I started with contribution. Like, that's before I was even working for Magento. That's like, I saw stuff that frustrated me. I saw stuff that annoyed me, and I was like, I need to change this. I found stuff that I was interested in enough to do it outside of just doing a job, and that really kind of kept me going through it. So I really appreciate the kind of getting the passion for the open source side of stuff, and so maybe last kind of discussion sort of thing. Let's move away slightly from the open source side, and just what do you reckon you're kind of excited to see in the next 12 months with regards to, can be with regards to Magento and open source, but also just generally with Magento? That'd be interesting to you.
I think Magento's movements with PWA are going to be really impressive. If you're following what that team's doing right now, it's exactly how you want Magento to be interacting with the community. being sort of building good software that developers want to use and want to be able to work with. Speaking with like James and Eric and everyone on that team, they really care about the developer experience, and it's probably one of the most exciting things that's going to be coming out over the next 12 months. It's really going to allow us to start pushing the web, pushing performance.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think that there is more space with regards to the PWA result? Like we have it set up on GitHub at the moment, and do you think there's an opportunity for like treating it more like a MSI, or would you like to kind of how do you think the Magento world developers can interact with the PWA side of stuff?
I think when I think beta program's out fairly soon, I hope. So if you've got things like that coming out, and everyone can get involved and using that and contributing back through those programs, it would be really exciting. I'm losing my train of thought now.
It's fine.
With anything, I think sometimes Magento needs to hold a product. And actually work with a product team. Sometimes you can interact with the community like with MSI. You can't always give it just out to the community.
Yeah.
Magento does need to have that product going as well.
Yeah. Like Max, like I know you were pushing. What was the thing the other day that I saw with regards to? Was it caching? There was something specific with the caching debugging side of stuff. What drives you from a Magento? What are you looking forward to the most in the next 12 months with regards to, since we're at Imagine?
Yeah. So I'm going to a talk, what's new in 2.3, and I'll get the list of features. Because I don't know what the list is of what's coming at this point. I mean, obviously, as John said, PWA is the thing that everybody knows about that's coming. I just saw that two-factor authentication is coming to the Magento admin panel, which is much needed. I think, there's definitely some more improvements that could be made from a security standpoint as well.
Okay.
It's kind of a roundabout, all over the place response, but
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. If you could change one thing with regards to Magento, if you could change like one part, what do you think you would want to see different?
Good question.
You can think about it. Yeah, we can come back to you on that one. Okay. So then, Laura, for you, what are you excited the most about to coming up in with the next sort of set of releases and everything?
I think just to repeat a lot of the front end changes.
Okay.
Because the front end is a pain point for sure. I consider myself more of a back end developer than a front end, and at this point, I need to be able to be proficient in it, and I feel like I might have to wait because some of the stuff is going to go away or be not preferred way of doing it. So I'm looking forward to getting that stuff, the architecture at least somewhat finalized in order to be able to jump in and start learning.
Yeah, I'd like to give my vision about why I'm so excited about PWA. I used to be a front-end guy 10 years ago. I was a Flex developer, so I did really good things on front-end. But then I became a back-end guy. And what excites me of PWA is the fact that PWA, to become true, requires Magento to become a real headless platform. And this is what excites me most. Because from my point of view, being able to work with a full headless platform opens a wide range of opportunities and integration with several systems. Projects that we do often involve other systems with which to integrate, and having covering all the business logic of Magento with APIs is really, for me, exciting. And PWA can count on this fact.
Okay.
This is my vision.
Cool. So one thing, like, recently, since moving to Magento, I've become a remote developer, which I think is one of the and especially when you're looking at the community, we're all distributed anyway, and that's why I love the distributed contribution day. Whereas it can be quite hard to have enough time and have enough budget to go to like a contribution day somewhere. But what I love about open source and what I love about GitHub is it kind of breaks down the walls with regards to I don't really have enough money to go to Imagine. I don't want to go and join in with the hackathon or whatever. I don't, and I'm just wondering, especially because the community is so widespread, it is so like across the world. Like we have a few countries represented here, and for me, I love the fact that Magento seems to be going in the direction where it's not just about American developers, or it's not just about European stuff. And I saw that when I went over to India to do a contribution day there. There is so much passion for the product that maybe we don't see that often because we're kind of like in our bubble, let's say, and I think one thing we've noticed a bit more is we can actually highlight around the world who is contributing in, and I think that's pretty amazing to see the different countries, the different the cultures, the backgrounds for people coming in. And I've completely forgotten where I was going with this now, because there's so much going on around us in Imagine that people are eating, and I'm starting to get very, very hungry.
Yes.
So what I just wanted to end it with there is like from a diversity, from a cultural point of view, like having this open source, having this environment where you can stay at home and you can contribute and you feel involved. And we have our Slack channel where you can reach out to the developers, you can reach out to anyone, right, and just say like, how did you get involved? Because it's one thing me standing up as a Magento employee and being like, you should do contribution, but I think what's more what's kind of probably has a bigger effect is when you have someone from the community like everyone here and saying like, this is why I love contribution. This is why I think contribution is important to Magento as a product. And it kind of, I would love to see more things like the distributed contribution day, where it doesn't specifically have to be you go to an event, but you feel like no matter where I am, you still have that connection, you know. And I know that Alessandro, you're in a distributed company as well. So is there anything that Magento should look at when considering inclusivity? That's the word I'm looking for.
I really enjoyed the distributed contribution day. I think that, yeah, I agree with you that we can probably try to organize more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it comes to moving, attending conferences, yeah, you know, it's expensive, it requires time. Instead, the distributed contribution day was, yeah, you can work from home, you can stay some hours or the whole day, it's up to you. You're not obliged to be all the day working. Even some hours would be very appreciated. I think that tools, I see that we're on a completely distributed company, and tools is the key for us to work, because without the possibility to be side by side, physically side by side, we need to replace this kind of activity with tools. So, you know, Slack,
Mm-hmm.
the video chats, and pair programming through tools that allow you to code on the same IDE together, things like this. Probably, and this goes back to the initial question, what we can do to facilitate, to make it easier. Yeah, probably we can think of setting up sort of onboarding tools, just like the VM Laura was talking about, or guidelines, all the things that make it easier to jump on board. Once you are on board, everything is easier. You are in, you know people. You personally, when I started to work on MSI, I asked a lot of questions. I know that I was bothering them, but they always told me, "You're not bothering. You're welcome. You're really welcome." And I felt this thing. So, and this is how it began. And I think that this is what we have to do. This is why I attend conferences to push people and let them approach me and ask me
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
I want to add one thing.
Yeah, sure.
So about inclusivity and making people feel welcome,
Yeah.
I think something that people sometimes fear about open source projects is like the maintainer of the and I haven't seen this at Magento, but basically like somebody will submit a pull request and then the maintainer will just rip it apart and say, you know, this is terrible, and also just like make assumptions that the contributor is, you know, knows about all these inner workings of the platform. I'm actually curious, and I haven't had that experience really with you guys. I'm curious for your team, how you avoid that happening, and is there a specific training that people go through so that they know how to respond to issues and pull requests in a polite way, or is it just something you kind of vet out during the interview process or the hiring process?
It is something that we have thought about. I don't think there's a specific kind of training process. We do have documentation for the team in terms of how to go through a process flow for triaging issues and also pull requests as well. And so I definitely think it's stuff we could improve on. Being British, I think I'm probably too polite, I guess, when it comes to it. But I think it is something that we need to be careful of and we need to keep watching, because it is a very what is the word? It is just like this booth being fully made of glass. Giving your pull request is kind of it is a very scary thing to say, like, oh, let someone else look at my code, let someone, and not even just from an open source point of view, in a company point of view as well, going and saying, oh, please, can you tell me what I'm doing rubbish and what I'm doing well? You know, it's a very kind of it can take if it's the first time, it can take a lot of courage to do, and I appreciate it, and we have to be very mindful of that.
Well, someone's first contribution might be quite early on in their career, but that career could span 5, 10, 20 years. And just because they're not ready now doesn't mean you don't want to put them off, because in a few years' time they could be one of the top contributors.
Sure.
They could be the next Magento master. Exactly.
And we have to keep an open mind from that point of view. And I think Rebecca said it in her talk today. Like, as humans, I would say, as a generalization, we can be very, very easy to. We're very specific when it comes to criticism and very general when it comes to praise. And I think also part of the pull request process is if it's accepted, it's like tick green, right? And hardly anyone says anything else. So I think we also have to be we have to balance it between like making sure that there is enough feedback on the positive side as well as on the negative side. So not just being like, oh, this is great, but like going through and saying, oh, it's really good when you see this and that, and it's not just in terms of the person you're interacting with there, because pull requests are all open and stuff. Someone might look at a pull request and say, do I want to contribute to this project, because here's how pull requests are managed, or you know. And so I think, yeah, it's a good point from Mac that we have to be very aware of how we're dealing with people, and especially because we go across so many different wide cultures as well. Like saying, if you write a sentence, and first of all, if you're not a native speaker as well, that could be like native English speaker.
That was another thing I was thinking also is people from all around the world, a lot of them English isn't their first language, and it may be difficult to communicate in it. So I don't know if you guys have thought about that as well. Like, do we have a team that, you know, I don't know, can speak to people in other languages? I don't know how much of a problem that really is.
I don't know how much. Yeah, that's an interesting point actually. I don't know what I try and do personally. I don't think this is a team level, but personally, if there is some feedback, I try to reach out to the person, not just via the pull request, but also drop them a message on Slack and say, like, think about it. Is this something that we should discuss in a pull request and in text, or should we do this? Maybe just take 5 minutes and say, let's have a call. You know. And it is probably easier to get the emotion side of it right, to get the, you know, like, you can read something in so many different ways.
Yeah, we have that at Something Digital too, because we do code review of all of our code, and you know I do a lot of code review, and sometimes it's just the back and forth format of a pull request is just not a good way to have the discussion. It's better to just do it verbally.
Yeah, and I think with specifically with the way we do projects and stuff, we kind of more lean onto that side of like, this is how we're interacting, and this is how, you know, I've had many times where we've had a call, we've talked through an issue, and then I've gone back to GitHub and said, like, written down the notes of a call, you know, so that it's tracked somewhere as well. But I think, cutting out the back and forth communication can be very, very helpful at that point as well. Yeah, go for it.
Just a thought, to wipe out, people wipe out the fear of submitting code, especially rubbish. I think that during my contribution, I learned more from rejected code than from approved one, because rejected code gives you the opportunity to learn something. If you submit something and it's approved, nothing you learn. But if you submit something and something is rejected, usually the pull request reviewer explains you why, and there is a discussion, and this is the interesting and the improving part of the thing that I love. So don't be afraid. Obviously, don't have to push rubbish on purpose just to get training, but yeah, don't be afraid, because I think that if I put deleted code and accepted code, I have more deleted code than accepted code on any side project from my part.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when I was doing like my first pull request, it definitely got rejected, but the feedback process from it, the reinforcement of like, oh, here's like the first one I remember was the backwards incompatible change. Like, I made a backwards incompatible change, and the person just reached out to me and was like, here's the documentation of like how it should be done. And so I think you're not gonna go into the situation knowing everything. Like, I'm more worried about pull requests where there isn't feedback than a pull request where there is feedback. But yeah, making sure that the feedback is the appropriate in the appropriate form and in the appropriate kind of. You've got to respect someone for giving up their code and taking that step out into that. So yeah, cool. Well, I think we are kind of pretty much done. I don't know about these guys, but I am super hungry looking at everyone. There's like 200, 300 people outside just eating, and it is really, really hungry. And drinking, yeah. Thanks, guys. So I think this is a perfect time to cut it and say thank you to my guests for joining me and talking about contribution, talking about their kind of experiences and being open, and thank anyone for watching. And yeah, if you want to get involved, if you want to reach out to me personally, I don't mind, or come into our Slack and reach out to anyone in the team. I hope we're pretty open, and yeah, we're gonna make Magento better together, and making it open, and yeah, so exactly, driven by the community for the community. So yeah, thank you very much, and let's get some food because I'm hungry.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.